You think you know how the ancient world worked? Rule number 1. If you lose a war, your city gets burned to the ground. Rule number 2. Your people become slaves. No exceptions. That was just a regular Tuesday in the ancient Middle East. The Assyrians did it. The Babylonians mastered it. Brutality wasn't just a military tactic, it was the entire foreign policy. Enter the Persian Empire. Specifically, a guy named Cyrus. He looked at this ancient playbook of endless slaughter and he threw it right out the window. Cyrus realized something revolutionary. Ruling by fear is exhausting and expensive. Around 539 BC, Cyrus set his sights on the ultimate prize, Babylon, the undisputed jewel of the ancient world. Now, Babylon wasn't just a city, it was a mega fortress. Its walls were supposedly so thick you could race chariots on top of them. Inside sat King Nabonidus, a guy who, frankly, nobody really liked. Not even his own people. Nabonidus had a bad habit of ignoring the local gods, specifically the chief god, Marduk. Big mistake in the ancient world. So when Cyrus showed up at the gates, he didn't just bring an army. He brought the greatest PR campaign in human history. Most conquerors used fear. Cyrus used tolerance. He sent a message, "I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to save you." But there was a catch. He had to actually get inside. And those massive walls, they were completely impenetrable by force. The city had enough food stored to last for 20 years. A traditional siege was basically a waiting game nobody had time for. Plus, the mighty Euphrates River flowed right through the center of the city, providing endless fresh water. A normal king would have given up. Cyrus? He decided to fight water with engineering. The greatest heist in history was about to begin. The Euphrates River was Babylon's greatest defense, but Cyrus the Great looked at it and saw a giant flowing back door. The only problem? It was way too deep to walk through, and wearing heavy armor doesn't exactly make you an Olympic swimmer. So, Cyrus did what any logical, overachieving ancient genius would do. He simply decided to move the entire river out of his way. He marched his army upstream, miles away from the city, completely out of sight of the Babylonian guards stationed on the walls. There, his soldiers started digging. They carved out a massive network of trenches and canals leading directly into a nearby giant swamp. It was an absolute engineering marvel, executed silently and perfectly by thousands of guys holding nothing but basic iron shovels and baskets. Meanwhile, inside the seemingly impregnable city, King Nabonidus and his nobles were busy throwing a massive, citywide religious festival. The Babylonian guards were so incredibly confident in their giant, towering walls that they didn't even bother keeping a proper watch that night. They were literally eating, drinking, and partying it up, completely oblivious that the greatest army on earth was plotting right outside. Back upstream, under the cover of darkness, Cyrus gave the ultimate signal. His men broke the final earth barriers holding the river. Millions of gallons of rushing water immediately diverted into the newly dug canals, leaving the main riverbed flowing toward the city practically empty. The water level flowing under the city's massive, heavily fortified water gates rapidly dropped from dangerously deep to roughly thigh-high. Without making a sound, Cyrus and his elite shock troops quietly slipped down into the muddy, shallow riverbed in the dead of night. They held their weapons high above their heads and simply waded right through the shallow water, bypassing the legendary defenses completely. No battering rams, no giant siege towers, and zero casualties so far. Just some wet sandals and brilliant engineering. They were officially in. The next morning, the citizens of Babylon woke up with a massive collective hangover. They stumbled out of bed, probably expecting to start another normal, boring day in the greatest city on earth. Instead, they looked out their windows and saw thousands of heavily armed Persian soldiers standing right in their streets. Panic naturally set in. In the ancient world, waking up to a foreign army inside your city meant death, destruction, and slavery. But the Persians weren't looting. They weren't burning anything. They were just standing there, politely waving back. Cyrus had given his men incredibly strict orders. No pillaging, no harming the civilians, and absolutely no touching the temples. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, King Nabonidus suddenly realized his impenetrable fortress had just been picked like a cheap lock. He screamed for his royal guards, but they literally just dropped their weapons. Nobody wanted to die for a king they hated. Nabonidus was captured without a single sword clashing in the throne room. It was, officially, the most anticlimactic defeat in military history. Then came the absolute masterstroke. Cyrus didn't march into the capital acting like a bloodthirsty, conquering warlord. He walked in like a liberator. He went straight to the main temple of Marduk, the exact local god that Nabonidus had completely disrespected. He told the priests, "Hey, Marduk actually chose me to come here and restore order. I'm just doing the god's work." Historically speaking, this was a mind-blowing psychological tactic. He used their own religion to validate his conquest, making them love him. The Babylonian people didn't just accept him. They practically threw a parade for the guy who had just conquered their city. Cyrus had won the ancient world's biggest prize without a siege. But what he did next would literally change human history forever. This little clay object might look like a burnt ancient corn dog, but it's actually the Cyrus Cylinder. And it is arguably the first declaration of human rights in history. Instead of carving a long, boastful list of all the people he killed, Cyrus wrote down a completely new set of rules for his empire. Rule number 1. Slavery is officially outlawed. Everyone has the right to choose their own profession and live freely. Rule number 2. Absolute freedom of religion. You want to worship Marduk? Great. Ahura Mazda? Cool. Someone else? You do you. This was incredibly massive news for one specific group of people, the Jews. They had been held captive in Babylon for decades. Cyrus not only freed them, but he actually gave them royal funding to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. Over 40,000 Jewish exiles packed their bags and went home. Because of this, Cyrus is still celebrated in the Hebrew Bible as a hero and an anointed leader. By treating his subjects like actual human beings instead of disposable property, Cyrus achieved something military force never could. He built an empire of extreme loyalty. People didn't rebel because, frankly, life under Persian rule was actually pretty good. While the brutal empires of the past constantly crumbled from internal hatred and endless violent rebellions, the Achaemenid Empire stood incredibly strong, eventually growing to control a staggering 44% of the entire human population at its peak. The principles written on that little clay cylinder were so insanely ahead of their time that a replica now sits at the United Nations headquarters. It's a permanent reminder that thousands of years ago, a guy wearing a funny hat figured out the ultimate cheat code to world domination. Don't burn the city down. Just be surprisingly nice. If you want to learn more about how ancient people did impossible things, make sure to like and subscribe to Persia Decoded. See you next time.